automatically replicated in ECC, where what happens is earlier this freight unit was assigned to OTR, but now what will happen is this OTR is no more available in the system. I mean, it will be existence, but it will this freight unit will automatically assign to DTR. It will not assign anymore to the OTR because this OTR will be fully consumed and it will become, and the system will treat the DTR as a source document. So that's a small change with the business process, that how the system works whenever we use a sales order as a base document versus a delivery as a base document in TM. Moving on to the next slide, which is basically the whole process and capabilities in SAP TM system, where whatever I have explained you guys, we do have all this information is ready. Like, we have our order management where you can do your transportation requirement from ERP, like whenever you create a sales order, automatically the order order-based transportation requirements gets replicated in TM system. So this is what it is. So these are the information, and then we do have our own freight unit building rule. Based on this, you build the freight unit. So those informations get fall under this functional areas. And once the freight unit gets built, then you do the optimization. Optimization is like, I would say, planning. It's kind of you do the planning, like if you want to do a planning for a specific region, like I said, Midwest, or if you say you want to do a planning for New England, or if you want to do a planning for your Florida region, kind of thing. So based upon those selection profile, whatever you have set up, you will do the planning. Or plus, if in case if user or the transportation planner wants to do the manual planning on the fly, they can do, and they can use the same selection profile and do it. Plus, you can do your tendering process where tendering. One sec. So just give me a minute. So once you do the tendering, you send the message to your carrier based upon, you can have a different type of tendering, like, peer-to-peer broadcasting kind of thing. Uh, so once you get the response back from the carrier, you can decide whether you want to award it or you want to reject this load, or you again do the tendering to the next available carrier kind of thing. You can do that, and plus you can do the carrier selection. So those are the informations. I mean, those are the steps you can actually execute in the planning section. And once the carrier selection and tendering process and everything is done, and the freight order is already built, you do the charge calculations, because that's something, because the charge calculation is anyways, otherwise how you gonna pay the customer to the carrier. So those charge calculation uses some of the master data, like your freight agreement, your calculation sheet, your rate table, charge type kind of thing. So those information, plus you do have your own load planning. Plus, if you want to integrate something during the execution, like custom integration with some other system kind of thing, you can do that easily. Plus, you can track and trace through SAP. SAP has a specific module for track and trace, which is an event management, which goes very well with the TM system. So you can get a real-time status of your freight order. So if in case if customer wants it, well, what is the status of my load? So if you have event management is set up in your company, you can easily track what is the current status of your load. Similarly, we can extract some reporting. Plus, we do have our very good POWL queries. We call it as a Powell queries, which basically give you a very extra edge for the user to execute the information. Like if in case I mean, we don't need to create a dedicated classic, old-fashioned reports and all. It's kind of it's a web-based query application where you can have your own selection parameter through Power Query. You just feed all this information, and it will show you. So, like suppose customer wants that, hey, how many loads are being created, or if how many shipments are going out from a specific plant, they can create a quick query on the Powell in NWBC screen, which is a NetWeaver business client, and they can use this type of reporting. So it's very handy uh, for the transportation people who are basically working in warehouse and the shipping department. And then once everything is done, what happens is we do the freight settlement. So when we do the freight settlement, because we have to pay our freight charges to the carrier. So when we do the freight settlement, automatically the freight settlement was is basically created in the TM system. So we send this settlement document information again to ECC so that system will create the vendor invoice. But before creating a vendor invoice, SAP ECC basically gets created with two documents. One is your service PO and service entry sheet. And once that these two documents gets created, then after you can uh, do the carrier invoice or vendor invoice. Plus, you can do the postings to a specific FICO, like if you want to create a cost distribution, or if you want to generate an agency business document, or if you want to do some profitability analysis, you can do or you can control in your configuration when you integrate with the TM box. So that's how it should be. Now moving on to the next slide. One sec. Yeah. So the next slide, which basically SAP solutions for transportation and logistics. So this is how SAP TM basically linked to a different SAP boxes like ERP, CRM, SRM, or your SCM or BO kind of thing. So this is mainly basically your supply chain platform, which basically has TM and EWM. And these two, enterprise warehouse management and TM, goes very well together. And we do have our own event management, which basically uses for track and trace. Plus, it links to a SAP NetWeaver because all the optimized transportation planning or anything which you want to perform, everything is done in the NetWeaver business client. So you will see your transportation planner in any company. They mostly work 90, I would say 95 to 99% in NetWeaver business client. Or now it's a new technology called Fury. So I mean, it's a web-based application basically. So where they will use all these functionality, because your backend system is mainly for maintenance or mainly for the consultants who basically wants to do some configure or set up some master data. You can do those things as well from the from your GUI or from your web-based application, but still, that's still easy for maintenance. Is very easy whenever you use the GUI, because you if you want to do some recording or some BAPIs, you cannot do with the web application. So that's why you should use your backend system to all these type of maintenance activities. You can do it. Now moving on to the next slide is basically different movement types for shipments which are available in our SAP TM box. So it's these are just a basic, I would say. There are mainly several different business scenarios we have in our TM box, but I'm just giving you one example where suppose you have a dedicated lane between your one plant to a specific consignee, and every time whenever a customer orders, they always go with the specific carrier. Or if the consignee has their own truck, so you do a direct shipment, you don't even need to do a planning kind of thing. So in that case, what happens is you don't even need to create a planning, it will automatically create a freight order. So that is called a direct shipment. Similarly, we do have a different type of shipments like unimodal network, where you are a shipper. So you send it to a specific facility where you create a pre-carriage, and then from that transport facility, where it will consolidate the load. Like suppose, like let's take an example of FedEx or UPS. From different cities, they take all the mails and then come to one transfer facility, where they club everything and then sort it and then club it again and then load it to our truck, which will go to a specific location, which has all the mails specific to this specific area. So in that case, what happens is this transport facility will be used where it will do all the sorting activities. And once this sorting activity is finished, then you send it to a main transport facility, and then it will go to a consignee through a on carrier scenario. Similarly, it there are at times like whenever you do a international shipments kind of thing where your plant is not close to your plant is in the mainland, and or your client or your consignee is somewhere in Europe or in Asia. What happens is in that case you use a multiple means of transport like truck to send it to the up to the port, and from the port you can send it via ship or barrage, or if you want to ship it through airline. So those type of scenario we call it as multimodal, wherever the multiple means of transports are involved for for the throughout the life cycle of a transportation. Here we do have our different type of shipment. We call it as a port to port, like you from one port to another port. So you automatically the shipper send it to the port, and from the port the ship will take it and deliver to a specific port, and the consignee will automatically come and collect from the port and take it to the consignee. So those are the port to port shipment. We do have our export shipment where shipper do the pickup from a local station, and then there is a container freight station where we do have our own clubbing of all the mails, and then the port will be involved where it will ship it to the consignee kind of thing. So these are the different movement types which is shipment, but there are many more. These are just few. Now moving on to elements of SAP Fury UI. So this is how it looks like. I mean, it was launched last year. I think it was launched in 1809 because I worked in sometimes last year February, but it was launched I guess sometimes in 2018 September. In that case, it looks very fresh and it has a lot of functionalities like I think the people who worked on the Fury they knows different types of Fury apps like transactional apps, your fact sheets, and your analytical apps kind of thing. So these are I'm just showing you how it looks. You can have multiple sessions and then you can play around with different tiles based upon the fact sheet, like how many freight units are pending for planning kind of thing. So those are the information. You don't need to go and execute a query. You just have a specific tiles which will be act as a fact sheet, and that fact sheet it will show up on the tile that how many of the freight units are still pending for planning kind of thing. So this is how it looks like in the Fury app. Now moving on to next, which is basically our SAP TM in S4 HANA and SAP TM 9.6. So both SAP has released now it is 1909 anyways, but until S4 HANA 1709, SAP TM was only coming up with a standalone solution. It was 9.5, and then in year 2018, SAP has launched S4 HANA 1809, where it come up with two different offerings for TM. One is embedded solution, where SAP has embed the TM functionality in S4 HANA 1809 box. Plus, it also come up with a standard solution, which is basically a SAP TM 9.6. So if in case if customer doesn't want to go for S4 HANA implementation, like suppose if in 2013 if customer has already recently gone live their system, they don't want to reinvest uh, the money to again go to S4 HANA. Although SAP has a roadmap to to go to S4 HANA, but still to support the customer, SAP has come up with a side by side solution, which is basically a 9.6, which is basically an advanced version of our site standalone TM solution, which is basically 9.6 right now. So the next slide is basically tells you that what are the One sec. One sec. Okay, so